Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking storms across both the east and the west coast today. So we have some tropical systems or some tropical activity that is going to keep us very, very wet as we head into the weekend, and we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. Jerry is our tropical storm right now, not officially a hurricane quite yet, even though we did expect that to become a hurricane already. We have not seen that intensification. So tropical storm at the moment. We'll have to check on its track here in just a few minutes. This is what I was talking about earlier, weekend flooding for the coasts, where we have a lot of rain, not only on the west coast, but also the east coast. So we're kind of bookended by that flooding. And then right in the middle of the U.S., we have a heat dome. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, the return of the October heat dome setting up. What does that mean for you? It's going to be hot. Temperatures are returning back to about 10 to 15 degrees above average for a large portion of the U.S. It also is going to dampen our severe weather. So that heat dome often squashes our severe weather, keeps us very, very dry right in the center of the U.S. And that's exactly what we're seeing across the U.S. today. Yesterday, we were also seeing a very, very quiet forecast. We had a little bit of weather active across the eastern side of the U.S. and then across the Four Corners as well. We had some showers and storms, but no significant hail or wind reports to tell you about today. So we'll move right along here. A lot of activity out to the west. We've got a low pressure system that we'll talk about here in just a few minutes that's going to keep this area pretty active and maybe a little bit cooler as we head into the next few days. The rest of us, quiet and warm. And then we've got some rain across the east coast as well. Temperatures right now are warmer than what we saw yesterday. So today, temperatures have started that weekend warm up already. We're going to continue to get warmer and warmer for this weekend. All of this thanks to a high pressure system that's sitting right over Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas right now. You can actually see the ridge that it's creating. It's a little funky. It's not your traditional ridge right now. But what that's doing is it's squashing any chances for wet weather, severe weather, any sort of storm chances right in the center of the U.S. It's going to be very, very slim to none over the next few days. What we will get is we will get those warmer temperatures. Other than that, we've also got a low pressure system that's sitting off on the west coast right now. What this is doing is it's basically creating a funnel for all of this tropical moisture that's coming from Priscilla. What used to be a hurricane down in the Pacific is now bringing tons of moisture up the southern portion of California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, and that is going to create flooding in this area over the next few days. If you turn out to the east coast, we've got two low pressure systems, one coming in from the Midwest, the other down in the southeast. They're going to kind of merge into one. It's also going to keep the east coast very wet over the next few days. So really, we're talking a lot about flooding here, not a ton about severe weather. So for that significant hail model today, yeah, it's not terribly impressive. I am not expecting any significant hail today. If we do see a pop-up shower or storm, maybe getting up to nickel-sized hail, pocket change hail is all that you're going to get today, if any at all. But we have more to talk about in this forecast today. What we're going to talk about is the anniversary of Hurricane Milton, which we've got lots of videos to show you here. We're also going to talk about Tropical Storm Jerry, which is sitting out in the Atlantic, and the path that it's expecting to take. We're also going to talk about when will we finally see cooler weather. So we've got a lot on the docket. Let's just go ahead and fast forward through our weather today. As I mentioned, you can see Priscilla down here in the Pacific. Let's zoom down there to Priscilla, and it's basically funneling in all of this moisture between that low pressure system out in the west and that high pressure system in the central portion of the U.S. And it's creating for a very, very rainy situation over the next 48 to 72 hours. There's that storm. It's weakening. It's really not impressive in terms of organization or wind speed. However, it's going to bring us a lot of moisture. So here's a look at your flash flooding risks over the next few days. Today, we have a level 2 flash flooding risk across the Four Corners in the west coast. You've got scattered flash flooding expected in this area. As we head later into the weekend, our focus turns from this level 3 flash flood risk out to the west, now to the east. And we're going to see another level 2 flash flood risk along the east coast in the Carolinas and Virginias. So this is why we said that we are bookended with that flash flood risk, one to the west and one to the east. Now let's keep on going with your forecast here. Let's go ahead and talk about that future radar out on the East Coast. So we're going to go to the other side of the U.S. now. We've got a lot of activity across Florida right now, a lot of wet weather just sitting off the east coast of South Carolina and Virginia as well. You can see all of these showers and storms are just kind of sitting in place. They're not doing a ton of moving at all. This is going to lead to that just ongoing rain, not only today, but also tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to continue to get showers and storms in this area, which is going to increase that flash flood risk. Alrighty, moving on, I'm going to take you out to the Atlantic. We're officially pivoting to our tropical segment here. We're going to first talk about Jerry, and then we're going to talk about the anniversary of Hurricane Milton. We actually had a storm chaser, our CEO, Derek Klein, on this storm, so we're going to show some videos that he got live while the storm was happening. Let's go ahead and take a look at Jerry first. So here we go. We've got Jerry right here. Wind speeds at 65 miles an hour, not quite a hurricane, still at tropical storm wind speeds. It's moving to the west-northwest right now. However, it's about to see some big change. We're going to see this storm start to pivot straight north over the next 12 to maybe 24 hours here. It will intensify into a Category 1 hurricane, 80-mile-per-hour wind speeds as it approaches Bermuda. Now, this is going to keep it away from the states. You can see it's still very, very far away from the states here. We are not expecting any major impacts to the mainland. However, we do have some tropical storm watches in effect in the Caribbean. Category 1 hurricane as we head into the weekend. However, it is supposed to curve back to the east and then weaken as it does so in the higher latitudes. Now, we're at Jerry at the moment. We're not expecting another named storm over the next day or two. Whenever we finally get that next named storm, it'll be Karen. Lorenzo next on the list. We're at 10 named storms so far this season. However, we did forecast a little bit above average, so we're thinking more like 14, maybe 15 named storms. So we still have a ways to go. Our average season would consist about 14 named storms. In 2024, we were way above average, and actually that's where I'm going to go to next. Let's get a look at 2024. This time last year, we had a very, very busy September and early October in terms of hurricanes. You guys remember Helene from last year? Isaac and Joyce came after that. Kirk and Leslie were pretty impressive. Cat 2 in there, Cat 4 as well. But really what I want to talk about now is Hurricane Milton, which intensified very, very quickly to a Category 5 hurricane. I'm going to bring in meteorologist Michaela Smith, our newest meteorologist here at HailTrace. Michaela, tell us about the hurricane track and how it impacted Florida at landfall.
I'm meteorologist Michaela Smith, and today we're going to look back at Hurricane Milton. It made landfall 1 year ago today on the coast of Florida near Siesta Keys and Tampa Bay. So we're going to take a look back at what that storm was like, some of the impacts that it had with tornadoes and record amount of rainfall. And then after that, we're also going to show you some video from the storm because we had our own Derek Klein there. So he was able to kind of see that storm in person and have a totally different perspective for you. But first, we're going to start again taking a look back 1 year ago. I'm going to start sharing my screen here with you so that you can see what this looked like 1 year ago today. So here is a look at Hurricane Milton. We're looking back. This is an awesome view from space, just so you could see how large this storm truly was. And it came on the heels of Helene. So if you remember Hurricane Helene, it made landfall in Florida on September 26th. It made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane. And then Milton, just shy of 2 weeks later, made landfall on October 9th as a Category 3 hurricane. So very active waters last year. You can see this area highlighted in red. That gave a 90% chance that we were going to see a storm develop. Then it very quickly became a hurricane, and then it underwent rapid intensification, which means in a very short amount of time, we see the hurricane kind of explode. It gathers itself together, and it went from a Category 1 hurricane quickly to a 2, and then it jumped to a 4. I have this satellite image for you too that we're going to check in and see. And this is what the hurricane looked like as it was making landfall in Florida. So I'm going to play this for you. You can see, again, it hits Florida late at night on the 9th. It goes across the state in the overnight hours. It maintains its category 1 status as a hurricane, so 3, but it stays a hurricane all the way across Florida before it impacts back into the water on the other side. Eventually, wind shear gets a hold of the hurricane, and then it stops, kind of falling apart. So at that point in time, again, that's when things became a little bit less concerning. Obviously, there were still impacts that they were dealing with in Florida, but the hurricane quickly diminished once it was able to go through land, because the land and the shear really disorganized Milton a lot, even though it went back out to sea. I'm going to start sharing my screen with you again so we can continue to see just the exact path of Milton. Here it's again highlighted in pink. It's pink because it was a Category 5 hurricane. You can see it goes from again a 2 to a 4 to a 5, and then for multiple days it goes back and forth between a 5 and a 4. So it stays a very strong hurricane. Eventually it starts to weaken a little bit as it hits the west coast of Florida as a Category 3, and then like I mentioned, it stays a Category 1 as it goes all the way across. Now you can see some really powerful before and after pictures. This is from the air. The top one is before Milton. This bottom one is after. And you can see in the before pictures a lot of landscape, a lot of trees. You can see people's homes. The bottom picture, it looks like there should be a beach on the left side of your screen. And no, that wasn't a beach. There's just so much sand from the high tides. Again, all the storm surge that came up onto the land with all the rainfall too. So it really was a very impactful storm for the coast of Florida. It was weakening as it made landfall. This graphic I have for you is when it was moving across the state closer to Orlando, but the highest wind speed that was recorded from Milton on land was 105 miles per hour. The maximum wind gust recorded in Tampa, because again, we said it made landfall a little bit closer to the Tampa Bay area, that was 89 miles per hour. And then as it moved across Florida, another major area that it impacted was Orlando. A lot of people there. And even at that point in time, it still was a Category 1 hurricane. So the maximum wind recorded in Orlando was 74 miles per hour. Besides the winds, one of the big factors for Milton was torrential rainfall. You can see the St. Petersburg Albert Airport recorded a one-day record rainfall of 18.54 inches. Almost 20 inches of rainfall in one day. And to put this into perspective for you, their October monthly average is right around 2.16 inches. So that was a ton of rainfall in one short day. Tampa Bay also set a new record for October. They had 11.43 inches of rainfall. And you can see with this graphic here too, kind of that pink area that goes all the way across. That's highlighting an area of 10 to 15 inches of rainfall. So a lot of what they were seeing was not only the storm surge coming in, but even inland, they were dealing with flooding. And the major thing that happened with Milton is Milton produced a lot of tornadoes. There was a tornado outbreak in southern and central Florida. They had 126 tornado warnings that were issued in the state of Florida as Milton was making landfall. You can see this graphic here and just how chaotic it was. All the red here are those tornado warnings. Now, from those warnings, even though they had 126, there were not 126 confirmed tornadoes. There were 45 confirmed tornadoes, 1 waterspout, meaning that it stayed over water, but it was actually on a lake in Florida. Of those tornadoes, 3 were EF3s, 6 were EF2s, 25 of them were EF1s, 7 were EF0s, and then 4 were EF unknowns, just meaning that they didn't have enough data research to kind of see exactly where it was. Maybe they lacked pictures. There wasn't enough damage to really determine what those status should be. So that's why there were 4 EF unknowns. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now at this point. So Milton was a very impactful storm. Again, it was 1 year ago today on October 9th. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, now we're going to send things over back to Taylor. She's going to show you some really incredible pictures from our CEO, Derek Klein. He was there when Milton was making landfall. So you can kind of get that perspective of what it was like for someone living in Florida at that time.
Thanks, Michaela. A fantastic report and recap of what we saw from Milton from a meteorologist's side and the impacts that we saw, especially with that beach picture. It looked like that entire area was a big, massive beach, but really that was just homes covered up by sand. Now, Milton was a very impactful storm, and we actually had eyes on the ground as this storm hit. We had our CEO and avid storm chaser, Derek Klein. He was out in Florida during this storm landfall. It was a Category 3 as it made landfall. Take a look at his videos.
The storm just continues to get stronger here in Florida now. Although the hurricane's weakening, we're really starting to hear the roar ahead of us now as the wind starts to really ratchet up. Beginning to see winds heading to 60 to 70 mile per hour range. You can really hear it roaring. Just over here behind me, we've got the ocean. Yep, the ocean is right here. This is going to come all the way up over the top of this wall, and it will be over my head by the time this hurricane is over with. And you can just hear, listen to the wind as it roars through the sails. It's absolutely powerful wind, and we're just getting started. The worst will be here in the next 1 to 2 hours. As we take a direct hit, we're going to be right in the eye of Hurricane Milton here in Bradenton, Florida. See, again, as the wind continues to increase, so it definitely is increasing in intensity. Every few minutes, the wind speed continues to increase. Definitely one of the stronger gusts we've had. Something just blew off that building. I got it on video. I don't know if you saw it. There was a loud bang that was whatever fell off the building hitting the ground. We're in between gusts right now, so it should wind change. Underground, maybe? Imagine what the 150 is still like. Oh my goodness. Ooh. Wow. We are right now in Sarasota, Florida, where we slept out Hurricane Milton. We rode it out in Bradenton, Florida, where we had winds over 100 miles per hour. But here behind me, you can see we've got a Publix grocery store, and it lost its roof in Hurricane Milton. Expected winds in this area really close to 100 miles an hour, even as far south as Sarasota. Again, just widespread swath of 100 mile per hour winds came through this part of Florida, and people waking up here. Currently, we actually have power here in Sarasota, but most people in this area without power, no stoplights, no ability to receive any electricity for that matter. So, but again, behind me, you can see, look at all the roof damage here. We've got trees down all over the area, power lines down. It's a real big mess, a big cleanup ahead of everybody here in Florida, but the cleanup has already started as we've seen crews out cleaning up stuff around town already. Back to you. All the water this morning, trees uprooted. This area had winds probably low to mid 90s. See the stop sign over there. They've actually gone through and already picked up a lot of the trees through here. Off the main part of the road where the wind blew it off.
Yeah, and we appreciate Derek being out at landfall during that hurricane. He did a phenomenal job getting in the right places at the right time and staying safe. So you saw from the very beginning of that storm making landfall to while it was making landfall with all of those power flashes, and then you saw at the very end the aftermath with that roof blown off and the trees that were just sitting in the middle of the road. Again, that was the recap of Hurricane Milton, which made landfall 365 days ago this time last year. Moving back on land from the tropics now to the heat that's building in this weekend. Temperatures are going to be well above average. Get your t-shirts ready. I know I switched from the turtleneck now to the tank top this week because temperatures are going from below average to above average as we head into the end of this week and this weekend. Let's see, how warm are we getting? I think 80s and 90s would be a really good bet if you live in the South. If you go a little bit farther to the north, 70s and 80s will be your high this weekend. And then if you're lucky enough to be in some of these northern states, you've got the 50s and 60s this weekend. But it really doesn't feel like the middle of October. How long is this going to last? Quite some time. It looks like temperatures are going to be above average as we head into the middle to maybe even third quarter of October. So we're talking about all the way to the 18th at least. Temperatures are going to be well above average, warmer than normal. So we're talking about if your normal temperature this time of the year is 70 degrees, you most likely will be sitting in the upper 70s, low 80s. Most likely not breaking any records for those daily highs, but still just warmer than what you would normally see this time of the year. As we head out to the west, we've got lots of rain still incoming, very similar to this weekend. We're expecting more rainfall than average, and then the southeastern portion of the U.S., a little bit drier than normal. And there's your forecast today. Thanks for joining us. We just recapped Hurricane Milton, which made landfall this time last year. We appreciate meteorologist Michaela Smith doing that breakdown for us, and Derek Klein for being out in the storm for us. If you want to go back and rewatch any portion of this forecast, we also recapped Tropical Storm Jerry and the forecasted track that we're expecting over the next few days. You can always go back and rewatch this forecast after the forecast is over. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and give us a call for a wind, hail, or tornado map at 855-334-4245, or email us at info@hailtrace.com, or head over to our website, hailtrace.com, for more information. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you back here, same time, same place for your forecast tomorrow.